And good evening, hockey fans. This is Jared Fowler coming to you live from the great state of Texas for another edition of NHL 19. And tonight I'm going to have a special edition for you. Of course, my created team from the United Hockey League, the Austin Ice Bats, will be hosting a team from the Belarusian Hockey League, Yunost Minsk. So, give a shout out tonight to my good friend from Colorado. You all know him as Sitdruck the Gamer. Has some great videos on his YouTube page. So go and check those out soon. He's got some cartoons coming up called The Intelligent Wise Men. So looking forward to that. And tonight, as I said, an exhibition game with the Austin Ice Bats and Yunost Minsk from the Belarusian Hockey League. And of course the Bats will be playing in the Bat Cave against Minsk. Looking forward to a good exhibition game here tonight. And I changed up the Bats for those of you who've been watching my previous broadcast. I changed up the Bats jerseys a little bit. And there you see my alternate jersey. A little bit of a throwback to the Western Professional Hockey League days. Ice Bats had uniforms just like this back in the inaugural days of the Western Professional Hockey League. Played against my team, the Central Texas Stampede. Big rivalry here in Central Texas. Of course, that was over 20 years ago. And I'll take you years to look at my home jersey that I'll be wearing during the regular season. Change that up a little bit as well. And there is the away jersey. And tonight I'm going to play an exhibition game against Yunost Minsk from the Belarusian Hockey League. So, hope you enjoy, folks. See if I can adjust the games here a little bit. I think we're ready to go here in just a second. Alright, all set for tonight's exhibition game. Minsk and the Austin Ice Bats. Hope everyone's had a good week so far. Recently started my new job in Waco, Texas, which is just 30 miles north of Temple, Texas, my hometown. Been watching the Texas Stars this season. So hope everyone enjoys tonight's exhibition game before the start of the regular season. I will start the regular season tomorrow night.
In that sometimes your star players only play a third of the time. Do they ever make a contribution, though?
Well, you need them, Doc, to make those big contributions. Star players are a real important cog to the success of your team. Because if you don't have,
of course, tonight usually when
much success.
I'm commentating on this game, I'm doing play-by-play, and there you see Bats captain Brent Curry.
Okay, so let's look at the
and I put myself into the game as the Bats starting goaltender.
Had pretty good focus lately. His numbers have gotten better and better for the home team.
So I'm going to be the starting goaltender for the Bats, and there you saw it, Igor Brikun
for the visitors.
Starting for Minsk.
The centermen are in, and the puck will be dropped.
All right, Kelly Smart facing off. Kelly Smart was one of the all-time leading scorers in Austin Ice Bats history. Underway here at the Bat Cave. Good hard check. Joe Van Volsen, career minor leaguer, made his way around the leagues. Dan Price. The forwards are Kelly Smart, Dan Price, and Joe Van Volsen. And offsides against the Bats. Curtis Lilly and Brian Anderson, the defensemen.
The rebounds better be cleared away because teams crash the net. When you shoot the puck that much, you know where the second chance comes from.
You know, we talk about wish list for NHL 20. I really would like the KHL to be included in NHL 20. Maybe add the IIHF jerseys as well as the junior hockey tournament. A good way for the NHL to scout players, potential prospects.
Skill play by Hartnell. Taken over again. That one's right on his stick from the right side. Shoots one. Wonderful.
And it looks like But again, like I said, I really want the KHL. Of course, we had the team Lokomotiv Yaroslavl, who lost their entire team several years ago in that horrific plane crash. It was a national tragedy. Of course, that's still fresh in the minds of a lot of Russian hockey players. It was a hockey world really mourn the loss of an entire franchise in the KHL. And that's what happens whenever hockey community is just a great all-around community, the hockey world, and whenever a well-known player passes away, or a team like Lokomotiv, or maybe last season the Humboldt Broncos, most of their players have perished in that deadly bus crash on the way to a game. Of course, the hockey world mourned anytime a team or a player passes. That's why hockey is the greatest game in the world. They really come together to support those in need, whether it be a hockey community or a country like Russia, well-known hockey country. Of course, if you saw some of my last broadcast, sorry about that, I'm kind of texting my wife here and playing at the same time. But anyway, as I was saying, you know,
receives that pass from the other side.
I lost my train of thought there. Sorry, folks. But anyway, hockey community is really great. But as I talked about in one of my previous broadcasts, the USA CHL, that is a paid, not a play for free hockey league, junior hockey league. Looks like we've got a breakaway here.
He's alone. Can they catch him? He scores!
And the Bats get on the board first. But the USA CHL only comprised of 4 teams, and all four in Texas. Of course, we have the Wichita Falls Force, based out of Wichita Falls, the Laredo Bucks, a 2-time CHL President's Cup champion, and we have the Rio Grande Valley Killer Bees, a former CHL member, and also a North American Hockey League member. Then only lasted 2 years, or the Killer Bees in the NAHL, but they came back as a third reincarnation. That is the third time that the Killer Bees have tried to make it work in South Texas. And at the last minute, the USA CHL was supposed to be consisted of 6 teams, but there was only 4. And like maybe 2 months before the start of the season, a 4th team was added in McAllen, which is over as a border town, not too far from Hidalgo, home of the Rio Grande Valley Killer Bees. They were called the Texas Lawmen, and they were playing mainly out of a youth arena, while the other 3 teams played out of 6,000-seat arenas. Of course, Wichita Falls, this is their second go-around with hockey. They had the Wichita Falls Rustlers / Wildcats, who lasted for 10 years in the North American Hockey League before folding a year ago. And they decided to give it another go with the Wichita Falls Force. Their uniforms were really, really nice. I mean, looking just like the New York Rangers. Of course, the Texas Lawmen, they kind of look like the Minnesota Wild, their green uniforms. And the Laredo Bucks, they wore their exact same jersey they did back in their CHL days. Rio Grande Valley Killer Bees. And they also wore their exact same jerseys they did in the North American Hockey League. But the bad thing about this hockey league, it only lasted 5 weeks. And that's right, it only lasted 5 weeks. And I think the league was pretty much doomed from the start. I mean, looked like it was pretty much thrown together. And I thought maybe it could last at least 1 season if they would have added a couple more teams. But the league does vow to be back next season, and I don't see how that's going to work. Of course, one of the presidents of the league was Bill Davidson, former owner of the El Paso Buzzards, 2-time President's Cup champions out of the Western Professional Hockey League. And there was a lot of unpaid. Coaches were not getting paid. Teams weren't paying the lease. And Wichita Falls Force, they only, after playing only, I believe, 8 games, they only won 1. They were, and I think their opening night was less than 1,000 fans in attendance. I mean, I looked online at their first game. The building was practically empty, as well as the Rio Grande Valley Killer Bees. And then you got the Texas Lawmen playing in a youth rink in McAllen. And they had problems with the ice up there, and they were forced to play in Hidalgo, nearby Hidalgo, at the Killer Bees Arena. But because the games weren't advertised, the game was closed. There was absolutely no admittance, and they were playing in an empty arena. I mean, how bad does that sound for a startup league?
The clock bleeds down to the last minute.
And then I think the only team that had a really good chance of making it was the Laredo Bucks. And they only played 1 home game through 5 weeks. 1 home game. They played at Sames Auto Arena. And they lost their first home game to the Rio Grande Valley Killer Bees. Big rivalry in South Texas back in the CHL days. But there were 3,000 fans in attendance for that game, so a lot of people supported the Bucks. Back when they were a pro team, back in the 2000s, they did win the President's Cup twice, albeit in controversy over the Bossier Shreveport Mudbugs back in the early 2000s. But because K. Yeager Coliseum was the home of the Wichita Falls Force, at the end of the first period, there you see the score. Ice Bats lead Yunost Minsk 1-0 in the exhibition game. But in K. Yeager Coliseum, the home of the Force, the Coliseum owners locked the team out of practice and for non-payment of rent. And I think that was pretty much the final nail in the coffin for that franchise. I mean, coaches were leaving. I think the original head coach left I believe he quit right before the first game ever of the season. But the Force, their players all started leaving one at a time, one by one. And Bill Davidson, the president of the USA CHL, was saying that the team had not folded, but you look at the host families in Wichita Falls, they're saying all the players have left town. Players and coaches have left. They let some of the players back in to get their equipment from the locker room, and they fled town. The Force have folded, so they tried to go with just 3 teams. But the Texas Lawmen have folded. Texas Lawmen folded. They only had 4 players on their roster, and they had to play against the Rio Grande Valley Killer Bees in Hidalgo. As we get started for the second period now, between the Bats and the Minks.
They had turnover after turnover. I'm sure the coaches addressed that problem in the intermission.
It's dumped in.
But the Lawmen were going to play against the Killer Bees with just 4 players in uniform. So what they decided to do, they decided to have like an exhibition type thing, 3-on-3, where some of the Killer Bees players were loaned. They had to put on Texas Lawman jerseys and played like a showcase type game with in front of an empty building, a half-empty building. There were very, very few fans in the building for that night.
Yunost Minsk's in control of the puck in their own end.
But the Killer Bees did wind up winning the Classic, or the Showcase as they would have called it. And that was the end of the Texas Lawmen. Their players left town as well. Really didn't have much of a home arena. And that was it. They tried to make it work. Oddly enough, the league tried to make it work with just Laredo and Rio Grande Valley playing against national teams, exhibition games, national teams. But how is that going to be possible when you only have 2 teams in a league? It didn't work at all. And the USA CHL officially canceled their season. They said they will be back next year. I don't know how that's going to work, folks. I mean, if you ask me, the USA CHL, it was just an epic failure. I don't think they'll ever play another minute. I mean, I hate it for the cities, the 4 cities, because Wichita Falls had really good fans. I guess the WPHL was Central Texas and Austin and Waco. I mean, the novelty just wore off. It was a box office success back in the 90s. But the novelty just wore off. The fans stopped coming. And no fans means no money. No means no team.
Hammers one. Save.
But you really feel bad for the players. I mean, players that didn't even make squads in the NAHL or the NA3HL, the Western States Hockey League, all these small-time pay-for-play leagues. But this one was free to play, and it did not last long. So colossal failure was the USA CHL. I mean, Laredo especially. Laredo really showed support for the Bucks. And they were really excited to have their team back, but it just wasn't meant to be. So hopefully later on, cities of Laredo and Hidalgo will get NAHL hockey teams. Hopefully it happens soon.
Under 7 minutes have passed.
Under 7 minutes have passed here in the second period. Bats lead Yunost Minsk 1-0 in the exhibition game.
Let's it go. Save. The stick can break up a play, and it just did. Skilled play by Hartnell. Went to the backhand. Got in the way of that one. Wants the shoulder of the corner here.
Get out to the point.
Let's it rip.
David Broso with a shot.
Collected now. To the point it comes. Shoots one. Terrific grab with the glove.
That one just wide.
Moving it to Pollock. By himself.
Ryan Pollock.
He saved it. Strong
Rebound.
save.
That great save was all positioning.
Drives it. Oh, my, what a save. Save with a blocker. Gets
Man.
it with a blocker.
Yunost goalie still keeping him in it here. As I mentioned before, there you see the alternate jerseys for the Austin Ice Bats. That is their quote-unquote road jersey. Back from the 96 and 97 season, the first two seasons of WPHL play, the Bats wore those exact same jerseys. I mean, maybe not exactly the same as I created it, but pretty close. But this will serve as my alternate jerseys for the upcoming season.
Along the wing at center ice. Takes it in from the neutral zone. Fires. Score!
And got a one-timer goal. Bats up 2-0. As I said before, I added this team is mostly made up of entirely created players. Darren McKay, Andy Ross, and Craig Stahl, all former Ice Bats. My team was the Central Texas Stampede. I really had a lot of fun with them, as I mentioned in previous broadcasts. It was like Bush League hockey, kind of like a slap shot type thing, hockey in a rodeo barn, against players that were getting paid maybe $300 to $400 a game, or excuse me, not a game, but basically a month. And they had a really hard time. And I read a book by Scott the biggest name is Cohen. It's called Zamboni Rodeo, and he followed the Bats on the road the entire 97-98 season.
And he steps across the line. Save.
If you haven't checked out that book, I really highly recommend it. It's a really good read to the story of low-level minor pro hockey. Mink's trying to get on the board.
Banks it off the boards to his partner, and out of the zone they go.
Gets it out. Puck fired down. Decision made. Defenders first. Icing.
This is frustrating. The goaltender makes a save by getting just a chunk of the shot.
So 4:27 in the second period. Bats up 2-0 in this exhibition game. That one deflected wide. Curtis Lilly picking it up. And we got a breakaway. Dan Price on the breakaway. And just knocked away. Van Bolsen centers to Kelly Smart, and he scores.
That one went off his skate.
Looks like it was deflected in. But the Bats are up 3-0 over Yunost Minsk with 3:43 remaining in the second period.
People always zero in on the puck, but if you're going to have great puck support, you better have the guys without it that go to the open ice.
Good work to get into the open to receive the pass, but that's a beauty of a dish that opens up the pass lane, gives him time to shoot the puck.
The Bats have scored yet again.
So Bats up 3-0, 3:43 remaining in the second period. Kelly Smart with the goal, Joe Van Volsen, and Dan Price on the assist.
Feeds the point. What a ripper
Slap
from the
shot
point.
picked up by Van Volsen.
Passing one off now to Price. Skates it into the zone. Lets it fly. That hit somebody. He's gone.
And the Bats just take a 4-0 lead on a goal by Dan Price. Looks like his second of the game. Going to kick off the regular season tomorrow afternoon. And Kelly Smart and Joe Van Volsen on the assist for Dan Price.
Thought he had that shut off. He gets across the net, but he can't shut down the top fin. It's right in it.
Goalie to the bench. Substitution.
And that's going to do it for Yunost Minsk as they're going to make the switch.
Slowly make his way to the bench and exchange his mask for a baseball hat. His night is done, and it hasn't been a very good one.
The Bats have scored yet again, and their lead gets bigger. They are doing very well on the shot board, too. And the faceoff's won. He takes that point pass.
17 minutes, 59 seconds.
The cursed goals are the ones in the first minute and the last. Will we see one here? Pass attempt to Mackey. It's dumped in. They've got a long way to go on this one. They can move it fast, but they're up against the clock. Yunost Minsk's along the wing at center ice. On the outside, a shot. Great save.
And reached the end of the second period. It's all Ice Bats in this exhibition as they lead Yunost Minsk 4-0.
But it's been an entertaining first two.
Automobile-related pollution is on the increase worldwide. Do your part and take public transit to and from the game.
Yunost Minsk's goaltender has had one of those nights, and so this score is lopsided, and we will return after he gets a rest and these words.
Well, there you see the Bats leading Yunost Minsk 4-0. Just gonna look through some settings here real quick. We're all set to go for the third and final period of this exhibition game.
Minutes have been played. They are getting ready for the third period here. So take us back through the game. What do you think, Eddie?
The Bats are looking to close this out with the lead they have. The best way to ensure a win is to keep the opposition on their heels and don't give them any chances to retaliate.
He moves that one ahead through center. Puck ricocheted off the screen. Lots on that to Price. Strong wrist shot. Wonderful stop. Yunost Minsk's moving the puck up the wing. Oh, broke it up. Looks ahead to start something. A shot. Got in the way of that one, too. Takes his pass from the goalie. Brings it in for an attack. Perfect tip by the stick. Wonderful save. What skill by both goalie and shooter.
That was a tougher stop than a look.
Offside. Neutral zone face-off coming in.
Routine stop for the goaltender. The shooter's going to have to do a much better job challenging him.
A little under 3 minutes have been skated in the third. All of the scoring has come from one side. 4 of them. Goalie's one of the 6 guys on the ice. He can pass. He did that. And they got it out of there. Looking to Sagan. He gains the zone. Great glove save, and he keeps it. Wrister. And still another save.
Quite.
What a show. And he steps across the line. Has a chance to make a play through the corner.
See Minsk trying to get on the board here.
One. A strong pad stop there. Fires.
Just can't,
a wonderful save.
can't beat me on the stick side, boys.
These saves are all about position.
I'd like to say that the shooter was shooting for a rebound. At least I hope he was, because that shot had no chance of going in. Fowler's been the one key reason that his team's been able to hold on to this lead. He's faced a high percentage of top quality shots. He's stopped virtually everything.
Shoots one. Save there.
Look out, bud. Almost put it in your own net there.
Yunost Minsk controlling play now through the neutral zone. Regathers it. Perfect wrister.
Look out.
Pad save.
Thought that was going in for a second. Looks like Minsk might try to get on the board.
And moving up the wing. And he dumps it in. Gets it in a good place.
Oh, looking for Andy Ross, but passed a little bit too far. Oh, good hit by Jim Haskett, or excuse me, Chris Haskett.
That puck careened out of play.
That was Darren McKay there.
Didn't look like anybody got hurt there.
Looked like it went into the bench. Surprised that wasn't a delay of game penalty.
Puck dropped in the logjam, and the winger reached in and got it. Yunost Minsk's carrying on up the wing.
As I said before, this team here,
wow, what a glove save.
Austin Ice Bats, put in a few of the old Ice Bats players from the past. And I added a few new players along the way, but of course I'm going to be the starting goaltender for the Bats. My backup will be Christian Soucy. He was the Bats starting goaltender in their second year of play. And that'll be followed by Chad Erickson. And Chad Erickson was the starting goaltender for their inaugural season. Alternated time with John Blue. Played three seasons in Austin for signing with the San Angelo Outlaws as a free agent. Took the Outlaws to the President's Cup Finals, where they were swept by the Shreveport Mudbugs. Shreveport Mudbugs also a part of my league called the United Hockey League.
They win the draw.
Beat me in the face-off circle, just not beat me on the scoreboard.
Walks the blue line. Slid to straight. Puck is thrown to Price. Nicely into the zone. Shot. Score!
And Joe Van Bolsen gives the Bats a 5-0 lead with 7:38 to go in the game.
He is right there in the low slot.
Of course, the Western Professional Hockey League, we only had 6 teams. And the second year, they had a couple of Russian teams playing against the teams of the WPHL. Of course, Tractor Shelobinsk and Kristall Electrostal were the 2 touring teams in the WPHL. 2 well-known teams out of Russia.
Good place to shoot from, and he does. Save. Propelled to Coles. And he dumps it in.
And for those of you watching my previous videos with the ice bats, I did win a Stanley Cup with the bats. But then the first season of the UHL, almost put that in my own goal.
Austin's looking to head man up.
My inaugural season, I played as the Ice Bats, finished second in the division to the Houston Arrows. And I lost to the Arrows in the division semis, the second round, in 7 games. Arrows just a little bit better than the Bats.
While some people think it's bad luck to mention a shutout, well, they're trying to protect one. And I'm not going to affect it sitting in the middle of a video.
And of course,
and he dumps it in.
the St. John's Ice Caps took home the championship, defeating the Houston Arrows in the finals. So this will be season number 2 of the UHL. My created hockey league here in NHL 19. 2 minutes to play in this exhibition game. Bats look like they're just going to run out the clock here and head on home. Prepare for the season opener tomorrow, as we're under 2 minutes to go here in the third period.
It's dumped in. Gathered up again by Hartnell.
Rob Hartnell up to Darren McKay.
We are in the 60th minute out of 60.
And last minute of play in the third period. Bats leading 5-0.
And the pickup. Got that one ahead.
Chris Haskett on the ice. And there you see Curtis Lilly, the Bats' newest acquisition. Played last season in St. John, so he does have a ring to his credit. Well, the Bats try to get one more, and no, it's a save.
And he holds on, and the whistle stops play.
And it looks like Fowler is going to get a shutout.
Not going to beat a goaltender of this caliber with that shot. That's a pretty easy blocker stop.
Just going to run out the clock here.
Yunost Minsk's looking to head man up the wing. Wonderful block. That puck's loose. Good defense. The Bats setting
And
things
David
up
Brosa is just going to run out the clock here. Last 10 seconds.
to Haskins.
And Haskett will just dump it into the zone as the final seconds tick away here. And that's it. Exhibition game is over. Bats win it over Yunost Minsk of the Belarusian Hockey League's final score 5-0. Fowler with the shutout.
Not a very good effort.
Of course, the Bats saluting their fans.
So that is it for this one. Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed it. For Eddie and Ray, Doc saying good night all.
Well, this is the team I'm going to be playing with for the upcoming UHL season. Bats got a little unfinished business as they came up short last season in the playoffs. But this is a new look Bats team. So the final score, Austin Ice Bats 5, Yunost Minsk 0 in this exhibition game. And we'll take a look at the 3 stars here in just a second. 3 stars of the game. The 3rd star is Joe Van Bolsen with 1 goal and 2 assists. 2nd star of the night is Dan Price also with 1 goal and 2 assists. And the 1st star of the night is Kelly Smart with 1 goal and 2 assists. And a 5-0 Bats victory over Yunost Minsk. Well, that's going to do it, folks. I hope you've enjoyed this exhibition game tonight. Tune in tomorrow on YouTube as the Bats will open up the regular season, their 2nd year of the UHL. And this is going to be Jared Fowler signing off from Texas. So long, everybody.